Okay, everybody's talking about January 6th. The anniversary of the riot in the Capitol on January 6th. And you go back and you read my tweets, I have been consistent because that's what I do. I stand consistently on principle over politics, over party. And all throughout the summer of 2020 and on up into January 6th, what did I say? Everybody who riots, everybody who loots should be arrested and prosecuted to the full extent of the law, regardless of what the basis for their crime was, whether it was politics on the left, politics on the right, whether you were an anarchist and you didn't particularly care about anything and you just wanted to see things burn, as many people were. Regardless of what the reason for that was, you should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. I don't care about your politics, can't countenance rioting and looting. Within that context, everything going on today is a ridiculous political sham. I want to start right here. There are over 300,000 kids in Chicago that are not in school right now. That is a fundamental failure of the United States. 82% of those kids are black or Hispanic. Almost all of them are minority as an overall percentage of the Chicago area public school population. Almost no one in national politics is talking about them. Imagine the impact that Joe Biden could have had if instead of starting off this morning by speaking at the Capitol on the one-year anniversary of January 6th, which was a politically staged event, this response is by Democrats. What if he had made the decision to go to Chicago instead? And what if he had had a press conference alongside of Kamala Harris and they demanded that Chicago schools open up and every school in the country open up? Remember, we gave billions of dollars to open up schools all over this country, and yet we still have teachers unions that are refusing to go and back to work and put all the kids back in school where they need to be. Imagine the impact that could have had with the bully pulpit of the Biden presidency. But they didn't do that. Instead, they trotted out Kamala Harris and reading from prepared remarks. Again, unlike what I'm saying to you right now, everything that I say pretty much all day long, every day, 3 hours of radio, hours of live television, video, audio, whatever else, none of it is scripted, right? Other than the ads, which I will read, there is sometimes, a lot of times I don't, but other than ads, there's nothing that has a script in this entire show. Here's my notes for the last 2 days. If somebody wants to zoom in on this, they can analyze it. This is yesterday's show. I think some of you can see it maybe on the video. Maybe you can't. You can see the writing. This is today's show. That's it. That's the entirety of my notes for the last 2 days of Outkick the show. 7 numbers on yesterday's show, 10 numbers on today's show. That's it. Okay? It's not scripted. Kamala Harris's speechwriters in the Biden White House made the calculated choice to directly compare the anniversary of January 6th to 9/11 and to Pearl Harbor. She said that. Kamala Harris said that January 6th is a lot like Pearl Harbor and 9/11. It is maybe the dumbest historical analogy that I have ever heard a political figure make. And it wasn't off the cuff. It wasn't unprepared. It was reading off of a teleprompter. Even if you are the farthest right-wing lunatic on the planet, can you not see that comparing an event where only one person died, Ashley Babbitt, and she was shot unarmed by a police officer, that comparing that with 9/11, where over 3,000 people were killed after terrorists flew airplanes into Twin Towers in New York City, and comparing it with Pearl Harbor, December 7th, 1941, as Franklin Roosevelt said, a day that will live in infamy, when thousands of people died and we were officially attacked by Japan and entered into war, that comparing that to January 6th is not the analogy that anyone with a functional brain should make if they are being honest with the American public. Moreover, okay, it's not an insurrection. This was a riot. And most of the people who were rioting did so inside of the Capitol, taking photographs of themselves that they were posting to social media. To my knowledge, no one was even armed with guns. People were like, oh, they're trying to overthrow the government. How? What exactly is the plan that was in place to overthrow the government without guns inside of the Capitol? This was a lot of people who made an awful decision, right? The first awful decision was in not calling out the National Guard and having them present to ensure that this didn't happen. Remember, Democrats were opposed to using the National Guard for any protest. In fact, they got the New York Times editorial page leader fired for even publishing the article by Tom Cotton, senator from Arkansas, arguing that it made sense to call out the National Guard to quell months of rioting that were taking place all over this country, okay? We had Democratic supporter-led riots occurring for months. Remember that they went out and boarded up all the windows in major American cities to prepare for the possible eventuality of Donald Trump being reelected president in 2020. It was a direct threat that there would be riots, that there would be looting, that there would be pillaging that would go on all over America if Donald Trump were reelected. There was one riot, to my knowledge, that involved Republican supporters of Donald Trump. They deserve to be prosecuted. Just like everybody else in the summer who rioted deserves to be prosecuted. But pretending this was some sort of existential threat to America, that it was the equivalent of 9/11 or Pearl Harbor, is flat out political junk. And it is so insanely dumb that anyone with a functional brain should recognize the stupidity associated with it, okay? And today, I donated money to I didn't even know this was true. There are 83 people still being held in prison that are not being allowed to be released on bail for being involved in the Capitol riot. 83 people. They are mostly not being charged with very serious offenses. They are not a threat to the American Republic. They should be released. I donated money today to their legal defense fund. Let me explain why I did it. I, in my career as a lawyer, have represented murderers, have represented people accused of domestic assault. I have represented people who are accused of sexual assault. I have represented a lot of clients in my life who were accused of things that were not ideal. If you remember correctly, John Adams famously defended the British soldiers in the Boston Massacre. This used to be what lawyers did. We stood for principles of free expression of ideas, the idea that everyone deserves due process and a full defense of themselves under the law, even if they might be accused of a heinous act. These people are not in any way actually a threat to America. They should be allowed on bail. Many of them have spent nearly a year in prison now for charges that will not even amount to, likely, over a year in prison in punishment. This is nonsense. They deserve adequate legal representation. They deserve lawyers who are willing to stand up and look people in the face and not be intimidated because they're afraid of being called insurrectionist or something of that nature or magnitude. Again, think about American history. Think about what John Adams did. In Boston, he defended the British soldiers who opened fire at the Boston Massacre because he believed his duty as a lawyer was to provide the best possible defense to men that he disagreed with. That is what lawyers do. We stand on principle over politics, Democrat, Republican, Independent, whatever you are. The idea that there are 83 people in prison who are not being allowed out because they went into the Capitol on January 6th is what would happen in a banana republic. That is not justice. That is not what I believe should happen with the due process of laws, given what charges are out there about these individuals. I am 100% opposed to this.